What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to just another tech and gaming show. Thank you for joining us again. I am Nick, joined as always by my co-host Victor.
Hey everyone.
Today we're going to be talking about the next generation of gaming and what we think about it, our thoughts on that, go over a little bit with you there. But first, we're going to do a little bit of a news spotlight. So first of all, if you don't know what it is, there's something called Raspberry Pi. It is a little computer that you can purchase, and it is very cheap. It's really cool for coding. I happen to have two of them. I really like it, the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, but they've come out with a Raspberry Pi Model 4, and it is a lot more powerful than the last one. We're looking at a quad-core 1.5 gigahertz chip. You can get it in 1, 2, or 4 gigabytes of LPDDR4 RAM. Also has Bluetooth 5.0, 11 802.11 AC wireless, and you can power two displays. It is the micro HDMI display ports, but you can power two displays, 4K 60 frames a second. It's a cool little device.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I love running dual monitors, even 3 monitors. So I mean, that's a cool feature.
The amazing thing is that you can run that on such a small chip and for so cheap. So it is available now if you get the 2 gigabyte variant. I believe you just got to go to Raspberry Pi's website. You could see where they're available for. It's something like $35 for the 1 gig, $45 for the 2, and then $55 for the 4. As far as I know, the last generation was just 1 gigabyte of RAM, so I think 2 is probably plenty, but if you really want to go overkill and get 4, then by all means. I am highly considering picking up a 4 gigabyte Raspberry Pi. I just feel like that'd be so badass.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's super cool. I've been wanting to mess with Raspberry Pi for, a few years now, learning about it, and I think it's time. I mean, dual monitors, 4K support. A little bummed out about the micro HDMI ports, but
I know it's such a small. I mean, I don't know if you've seen one in person, but they're very small. I can't even show. I was about to show with my hands, and no one would have any idea. It's like the size of a credit card, maybe a little bit bigger. So they really can't fit too much there. So I understand the dual support thing, but really cool little device. Check it out if you're interested in coding or doing any game emulation, things like that. You can really use it for a wide variety of stuff. I only explained 2 of them, but there's a big amount of things that you can do with that little amazing chip.
And there's a huge forum fan base as well. So I mean, it's not, you can do things that typically aren't promoted on their website. Just be sure to do your research.
Take a look, and if you're interested in that kind of stuff, that exists.
Yeah.
The only other piece of news of note, I would say, is that Fortnite, as much as I hate it, is going to require a graphics card past Season 10 that is compatible with DirectX 11. So if you don't have that, start playing on your iPhones, because sometime in August they're going to move into Season 10 and they're going to require that. I don't know if there's any other spec changes, and I honestly don't care because I don't really like Fortnite, but I felt like it was of note because everybody on the planet plays it, and even I did at some point. So
I mean, and for those people who aren't really aware or informed about how this new technology is with their fees. Sorry, I feel like I'm just talking about. I don't know. But anyway, DirectX 11 chips aren't super expensive. So for those of you who are on a really tight budget, there are a lot of affordable chips out there that you can use and purchase for a reasonable price.
That is good to know. So that's it for the news. Now I just want to ask you, Victor, what have you been playing this week?
I've been playing Dead by Daylight.
Old and terrible game, but I played as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was free in the Xbox Game Pass, so I thought I'd give it a shot, and I'm not disappointed. And then I've been trying to play some of the older games on my PS4, Horizon Zero Dawn.
It's a great game.
Never got to finish it yet, so I'm still working on finishing it up. And super juiced. I just recently bought The Last of Us, and I have not finished that game yet, so I'm really excited to kind of jump on and see what happens.
That is absolutely a game that you've got to finish. The Last of Us is so phenomenally good, and I feel like as much as I hype it up, I can never hype it enough. It's a really good game. I really think that that's like the pinnacle of storytelling for video games, even till to today.
Yeah.
6 years after it's come out. That's great.
Yeah, what have you been playing?
I have been playing pretty much just one game. Crash Team Racing came out, I want to say it was June 21st, and I've been playing it non-stop since then. It is so damn fun, and you can get it for Switch, Xbox, or PlayStation. I got it for PlayStation 4, and man, it's just such a fun game. It's a kart racing game. In case you don't know, it's a remaster of an old game from the PlayStation 1, and it looks so good. And now I have to say, alienating any of the tiny bit of audience that we have at all, Mario Kart is ass compared to Crash Team Racing. Crash Team Racing is so much fun, and you can lose in that game from like getting hit by... There's crates you could pick up with items in it, and that's kind of the same concept of Mario Kart, where you get hit by the item and you're pretty much screwed. You're basically last place after you've been hit by anything, even if you were first place. And it's kind of the same way in Crash Team Racing, but it seems like Crash Team Racing requires a lot more skill. There's just more depth to that game, I think, than Mario Kart, and I think that a big reason for that is because Nintendo knows its audience and wants to make the game easier and simpler, and as many people as are sitting there going, Mario Kart's not simple. It is, I think, compared to Crash Team Racing.
Yeah,
that game is so good.
Yeah, the way you talk about it, honestly, I've not played it, even the older version. It sounds really awesome. I mean, you kind of make it sound really fun, and I want to pick it up. I want to pick up a copy and play right now.
now pick it up and we could play online together. That's what you need to do. But the game is really fun. I couldn't recommend it more. I really wanted to do... You're probably going to see gameplay of this if you're watching on YouTube, the two of you that are. But it's really fun. I really wanted to make a review of it, but I thought, like, there's not a ton of traction on these reviews. I think people already know what it is or already know what they're getting into with this game. And really, you pretty much do. There's a lot of content in that game, too. There's plenty of racetracks, and an adventure mode, there's an arcade mode, but anyways,
and the replayability of those kind of games, I mean, it just doesn't end, you know.
It holds. I really feel like I'm gonna be playing that game forever. There's so many people that when it was coming out would talk about it and say, I still play that game, I love that game, and I'm like, really? On your PlayStation 1 you still play that game? And they're like, yes, I still play that game. So I don't know, maybe you'll get almost 20 years of replayability out of it like some other people have. It's
not very
more like
common
15.
in this day and age, though, unfortunately.
It's such a good game, though. Oh my gosh, maybe it almost is 20 years old. Damn, dude, we're old men now. Yes. Anyways, pushing us right along. As much as I like Crash and can talk about that game all damn day.
Literally.
Let's get into the meat of the episode.
Yes.
So let's talk next gen consoles. So what I want to do is I want to mention the things that we already know, and I also want to talk about our thoughts on the consoles, how we feel about it. But first and foremost, just going over it, presumably PlayStation 5, which Sony has not announced the name to the console, but I think it's safe to assume it's PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
And the Xbox Scarlett. Now they look really similar. To go over a few of the things that we know, both of them are going to be running a custom AMD Zen 2 8-core chip. That is as much knowledge as we have on that, as far as I know. Both are expected to have 4K support up to 120 frames a second and 8K support unspecified, which I would assume probably means streaming in 8K.
Yeah. I would love to see that 120 refresh rate, though. Oof.
That sounds awesome to me. That is what I would look forward to as well. GPUs we don't know a lot about. We just know they're custom AMD Radeon RDNA Navi, and they're both supposed to support ray tracing. Storage, we're looking at solid state drives. Finally, exactly. And both of them are expected to be backwards compatible. As far as we know, the PlayStation 5 will play PlayStation 4 games and potentially PSVR games. I don't know where I got that information, but that's what it says. We're
sure
looking
it will,
at Xbox Scarlet. I don't know how much Microsoft confirmed, but that's going to be backwards compatible as well, at least with Xbox One. It looks like it's soon to be backwards compatible with 360 and Xbox as well. I would be very surprised to see that. Other than that, we know that the Xbox Scarlet is going to be a holiday 2020 release. That's pretty much all we know. I would
Start
expect.
saving.
Yes, start saving, absolutely. I would expect November. I think that's what we saw last time. So I would expect November, maybe October. And then we know that the RAM for the Xbox Scarlet is GDDR6. And that is pretty much everything we know about the next generation consoles. Do you think that sounds like enough?
Honestly, I kind of think so.
At first, you sounded almost disappointed.
Yeah, but realistically, anytime someone expects a next gen console, it's always going to be something. In your head, you could think it I want, I want support for something that's years out there. We might hear about it on the corporate side, the enterprise side. But as far as coming to consumers, usually the technology that we hope to see is always, years, has years to come to us. But honestly, I think listening to what we know, at least right now with the specs of these systems, I think it's going to turn out to be a really great system. I know there's a lot of changes on the software side that's kind of affecting this as well. Who knows? Maybe in the next gen systems, it might be even more powerful with some of these software enhancements as well, not just strictly hardware based. But it seems like
optimization.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nonetheless, though, it's going to be a big, hefty engine that runs both either of these consoles, and I think they know what they're doing. And
by this point, they damn well better.
Yeah, I've a good amount of hope in the next gen system, so I'm going to be purchasing both of them.
That is a bold ass statement because what I was
my words, all you two listeners,
all of you out there, both of you. But I think it sounds pretty good. They sound future proof, but every company wants to make their products sound future proof at this point. So they sound future proof to me. They sound pretty solid. I love the fact that they're both going to be backwards compatible, the fact that your PlayStation 4 library doesn't get thrown in the trash,
yes.
Or that you don't feel like you have to sell it, or that you don't feel like you have to bust out another console to play it. My concern there, though, maybe we should talk about concerns separately, but my concerns there is your digital library also backwards compatible? So, if I bought Spider-Man digitally, can I just download it from the PlayStation Store right onto my PlayStation 5?
That is
because
a good
it's backwards
concern.
compatible. I don't know. So I'm curious to see how that's going to be. I assume they already know, and it probably is the case, and that's going to be the thing that wows us when they show it off. I fully expect, by the way, that we will get more information on the PS5 come December, which feels far. But come December, I think we'll get more information on the PS5. PSX, which would be amazing to go to, by the way, I think is going to be happening this year. I don't know if they've announced it, though. And that's probably where they're going to show off the console and talk about pricing, which is a big concern to me because neither one of them have touched on it. Mark Cerny from PlayStation did talk about how the pricing will be in line with our expectations, which means nothing to me because your expectations can be anything.
I want to pay a max of $10 for my game console.
And that's my expectation. And is it in line with that? But $400 to the PlayStation 4, I feel like we were really lucky with because game consoles are usually not launching that cheap. But Sony was coming back from their terrible PlayStation 3 pricing, which was $500 for the base console and then $600 for the 80.
Huge backlash when that first.
They barely sold any consoles. They were competing against Microsoft, who I think had a $400 Xbox 360. So it's a full $100 cheaper. And it's just and a lot of the problem with that, I guess we could talk about the last generation, the generation prior to this, is that Sony had a terrible architecture to work with for the PlayStation 3. So a lot of the studios that made games did not want to make games for the PlayStation. Making the games compatible for the PlayStation was challenging, and even though the PlayStation was a more powerful console, you could really see it in the first-party titles from Sony. You could not see it in the third-party titles. Usually looked better for Xbox 360 and ran better on Xbox 360 because it was much easier to develop for an Xbox 360 than it was for a PlayStation 3. So, anyways,
Will that be the case with the next gen architecture?
no, they've completely gotten rid of that. This is
They've learned from their mistakes.
They've really learned from their mistakes. But I think everything runs off of DirectX now, so it's a lot more streamlined to make games for, or what is it called, the x86 architecture.
Yeah.
But a lot of these games are, I don't think it's hard to make a game for the Xbox One and the PS4 and to make it compatible with PS4 Pro and Xbox One X.
And I know the porting has kind of been a lot of studios have been pro porting lately, more so than they had previously.
And the ports have been turning out a lot better, I think, than in the past. And so I think that we're not really going to see it be that cheap, is basically what I was trying to say, because Sony's coming off of the PS3 to the PS4. They wanted to make sure that they were kind of making up for that price point. PS4 ended up being profitable because they sold so damn many of them so quickly. And then Microsoft made the mistake of going higher on the price, and then they screwed up. So I don't think we're going to see another $400 console, unfortunately. I think it's going to be at least $500, especially with these specs. I mean, 4K 120, and we're thinking that they're going to be able to bring that out at anything less than $500. I think it's going to be $500. I really hope it's not $600.
Yeah.
I hope neither console tries to do that. Maybe $550. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's about the right price range?
I would think so. Honestly, I feel like 500. They're trying to stay within that price point because based on previous patterns, obviously, like we talked about before, that $600 mark, it just kind of hit people kind of hard. And I understand,
Kind of rubs somebody the wrong way.
Yeah, the generation before was not up that high, and then it kind of just jumped, that $600 gun. And me personally, I didn't buy that PS3, but I definitely felt. I felt like it was a bold move, but nonetheless, I mean, I think the next gen hardware, I mean, it should stay within the 500 and under price range, given its specs. I feel like that's a realistic kind of price point. But tying in with the price, I know I'm going to kind of switch it up just a tiny bit here. But price wise, I know the current state, we're dealing with these tariffs on China and stuff, and a lot of these game consoles are made overseas. Will the tariffs increase the price on game consoles as well? So it's not only the MSRP, but it's
so they might not have a choice of choosing to have us pay $500. They won't be making any money. They might have to charge $600 or higher because these tariffs are going to destroy. I mean, they'll maybe not destroy, wreak havoc on the gaming industry. I mean, if we're looking at high enough prices, I'm not going to get the next generation console. I'm just going to be happy with what I have now.
And that's something that's beyond their control. A lot of the architecture in these custom consoles are custom.
Right.
Us in the U.S. don't really, we don't necessarily have the resources per their statements. We don't have these resources to build this custom architecture in a mass scale as China does. So I mean, I know right now, as of today at least, they're petitioning the U.S. government for a waiving on the tariffs for the game consoles and console parts. So we'll kind of see what happens there. But I feel like, not trying to go specifically political and stuff like that, but I mean, it does play a part in the price point of next gen hardware. Is this gonna be something that sticks?
Right. I feel like it's a huge deal. And absolutely, as far as you read, Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft are all fighting to try to keep the tariffs from affecting the game consoles. And I think rightfully so. It's weird that we would want to tariff those, and I don't know. I don't like tariffs, but I don't like the trade war.
It's making a
just
point,
not,
but it's affecting that to the average consumer.
it's yeah, exactly, and that's a lot of the conversation has been revolved around how it's not necessarily affecting these businesses like you would expect. It's going to affect the consumer. Of course, the U.S. government's going to make money off of it because they don't get enough more money already. But I pay my taxes, thank you. So I would not like to see these tariffs take a chunk out of my wallet just so that I could keep gaming. You already expect these prices to go up because it's the next generation hardware. I don't expect games to say $60. That's actually a really good question. I didn't write that down, but I wonder if games are going to increase in price regardless of tariffs. Like if they're going to go up to $69.99, if they're going to go to $79.99, just for the base cost of games.
Like when the 360, when I was playing 360, games were $50 for new games then came out, and they jumped to 60, and I was like, what the heck? Like, I mean, $10.
I know, from PS2 to PS3, it's a $10 jump, and from Xbox to Xbox 360, $10 jump.
Yeah, it was kind of a bummer.
Nintendo held back till the Wii U, and then nobody knew what the hell the Wii U was. Barely anybody bought it. They're on their high horse again with the Switch, but you know, we'll see. Anyways, so yeah, I think price is a big factor, and unfortunately, the tariffs may play into it. Let's hope not. I'm concerned, though, if they're charging $500, my concern is that the SSD inside, because they're going to be using an SSD instead of a standard hard drive this time, which is great. However, I have two main concerns with that. One, what's the size of the SSD going to be? And I think we already know probably a terabyte. And a terabyte is no longer enough. I have a terabyte on the Xbox One X. You cannot switch it. I would have to use external storage, and I don't want to use an external storage. I just want to use the internal storage of the Xbox. And a terabyte's just not really enough. I have like 14 games, or I don't even think I have 14. I have like 12 games on there. That's what I have. I have 12 games because two of them are Gears of War 5 and Gears of War 4, my mistake, and Halo 5. And those games are like 100 gigs each, which suck up hard drive space. I mean, it's rough. Yeah. So anyways, I'm concerned that the next generation consoles are probably only going to have 1 terabyte of storage because it's SSD, and SSD is more expensive than a standard hard drive.
Oh yeah, by
which
far.
Is cheap as
in
dirt.
Multiples, I feel like it's not just kind of like a 1-to-2 ratio. I mean, realistically,
it's a big difference.
It's a big difference, yeah, between SSD.
And so I'm concerned too with whether or not those can be swapped. And if you could switch that hard drive out, I'm not as worried because then I could just switch it to a 2 terabyte, no big deal.
Yeah.
But I am worried if it's not swappable. And the big concern too, just for anybody that's curious, is that if there's 4K support for like probably all games moving forward in that next generation consoles, you're going to be looking at bigger downloads and more hard drive space sucked up because of 4K texture packs and 4K cinematic packs. And if you don't believe me, download the Gears of War 4 or Halo 5. Those automatically have the 4K. You don't have a choice. And I would kind of like to see you have a choice with that because some people don't have 4K TVs like myself, and I'm more concerned with 1080p gaming at 60 FPS or higher. So
it kind of takes you back on the 360, at least when I had my hard drive. Like Kenny said, it came with a 500 gig hard drive, and it came to a point where, do I want this additional texture pack, this 30 gig texture pack when I want to download something? When you're tight on space, you're gonna have to. Yeah, you're just gonna what are you willing to sacrifice to make space for what you want?
I would like if they were broken out more, because one of the games that does do it is Lord of the Rings. The newest one, Shadow of War. Yeah, my bad. Shadow of War allows you to download the 4K cinematic pack and the 4K texture pack. I don't have a 4K TV, so thank you, because I'm glad I don't have to download that now. And I don't have to suck up another like 40 gigabytes of hard drive space literally just to have those packs. Yeah. So I'm glad that they do that. But irregardless, that's really my biggest concern with the next generation consoles. And I'm kind of like, I don't really care about the price as much. If it's under $600, I sound like a rich boy. If it's under $600, I'm probably just going to get it because it's backwards compatible. And I think I'm only going to go for one. I'm just going to get the PlayStation 5, I'm pretty sure, and that will be my console of choice for the next generation. I'm a PlayStation boy. I'm a Sony pony, just strong, and I'm going PS5 next generation unless they give me a reason not to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in a similar predicament. I feel like, I mean, I'm super Microsoft.
And that's what
might-
makes this podcast diverse.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, depending on the price point, like kind of like how Nick said, I might just kind of have to just go in on that Xbox and kind of see what happens there. But I mean, it'd be nice to have a lower price point just so I could keep that, keep both ecosystems. You know, I do love the PlayStation 5. I do love my PlayStation. I mean, I'm on it probably now a little bit more than my Xbox, but you know, I want to be able to keep that flexibility. I want to play with my PlayStation folks, play with my Sony, or my Microsoft folks. You know,
I would really like to see if PlayStation 4 can play with PlayStation 5 like online, because I don't think you could do that with PS3 unless I'm mistaken.
Gosh,
like PS3 to PS4.
that would suck so much.
PS4 to PS5 would be cool to be able to play together.
Yeah,
And
sure.
Xbox One to Xbox Scarlet to be able to play together would be cool as well.
Yeah.
Just because the last generation of consoles I don't think is underpowered, really. Everybody's going to fight me on that. But I don't think that they're entirely underpowered. And if you have an Xbox One X, like I have an Xbox One X, so buying a PlayStation 5, I don't feel like I'm going to be missing out on a lot of Xbox stuff because they'll probably still make some games that'll be compatible with that system. Since we had the mid-generation refresh, you don't entirely feel like you have a hunk of trash. So it almost makes sense for you to get the Xbox Scarlet because you have a PlayStation 4 Pro. So when you upgrade to the Xbox Scarlet, you're getting rid of an Xbox One S.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't really want to replace the One X so quickly after only having
makes
had it
sense.
for like 2 years, but I've had my PlayStation 4 Pro for like 3.
Yeah.
Or by then it'll be about 4.
And I despise that. I hate mid-generation refreshes because it puts the consumer up in a big question mark.
I mean,
What-
That's this is where we kind of benefit from it, though. This is where we're able to go, okay, well, I bought into the mid-generation refresh like a fool. I bought into the mid-generation refresh. I'm sure lots of people did. Don't consider yourself a fool.
Yeah.
But, you know, you bought into it. Now you kind of get to reap the benefits because it's probably going to last longer than that base console. You know, the PlayStation 4 Pro is probably going to have a longer shelf life than the PS4. Xbox One X is definitely going to have a longer shelf life than the Xbox One, the base model. So I think that's the part of the mid-generation refresh that isn't as bad. Plus, some of us get really antsy and we want the next generation technology as early as we can get it. So getting a mid-generation refresh is
especially
as
as
good
tech guys, you know,
Yes.
and girls.
That's exactly why I say I'm going to sound like a rich boy here. I'm buying a PlayStation 5 no matter what. I should say it's probably going on a credit card. That's not me just pulling out $500 or $600. It's me just being dedicated to gaming and being willing to plunge myself into more debt for this podcast and everyone that listens, so that I could tell you about how good it is
To
or
bring you
not.
the best content we possibly can.
Exactly. But anyways, you know, moving away from that, I mean, still talking about it, but moving away from it. What do you like? I know launch titles. We really only know one so far, and that's Halo Infinite, and that's for Xbox Scarlet. I can't really think of any other launch titles coming out but I'm curious if you think that there are any that are coming that you would be interested to know or like interested to see.
That's a good question.
I'll lead off because it
Yeah.
seems like I just kind of sprung that on you. I'm thinking Horizon Zero Dawn, which is you're playing now. Horizon Zero Dawn came out, and now I'm all of a sudden drawing a blank. Horizon
Bunch
Zero
of
Dawn
years
came
ago.
out to a bunch of years ago in 2017. I think it was 2017 February, and that game. I don't know that they even need to change the engine. That game looked phenomenal. It played
did.
great. It was
I mean,
it was an
does.
awesome project. So I would be super excited to see some like 3.5 years later they bring out Horizon Zero Dawn 2 as a launch title for the PlayStation 5. That would be amazing.
And that would immediately make me contradict what I said, and I would
And
buy
you buy a
PS5.
PS5. That would be amazing, and I'm wondering if they're like gearing up to do something like that because we haven't heard anything from Guerrilla Studios. They're the ones that made the game. They typically also make Killzone games, and I'm not sure where that franchise is at either. It'd be interesting to see if there's going to be another Killzone game. I don't want to see another Killzone launch title. They did Killzone Shadowfall as a launch title for the PS4, which was pretty, but it was, it was just an okay game. It wasn't a great game.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just like to see a Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
I would love as well. Yeah, I completely
As a
agree
launch
with
title,
you.
that'd be awesome. I would like to see, as unrealistic as this sounds, a Spider-Man 2 launch title, but that's totally out there, so I don't think that's going to happen. Ghost of Tsushima, which we've seen many a time, does not have a release date. We know it's a PS4 game. But what if it launched on PS5 and was also available for PS4? That'd be a really cool thing, too. So I'm wondering if that's what's happening with that game.
Yeah.
It looks too pretty to be a PS4 game.
You never know. You never know.
You never do, but
I would probably say for me, for launch titles, I would really like to see Starfield. I mean, okay, never mind. That I take
it sucks
that back.
because you're like,
we
I
didn't
want to see,
anything.
I want to see Starfield as a launch title as well, but I'm like, realistically, is that going to be a launch title? No.
We don't even
we don't know
content
where
for
it is or what's going on. They didn't even bring it out at this year's E3.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I feel like for sure there's going to be some kind of Forza that's going to be a launch title, regardless if
That
one
sounds
just
pretty
came
realistic,
out.
yeah.
That's been a trend. I feel like, and
Forza Motorsports 8 coming to Xbox Scarlet.
Yeah, Forza Master Chief Collection.
Halo
gosh,
Infinite is already huge, I
Yeah.
think. And if they are launching with that, and Sony now knows, Sony needs to get their asses in gear and get a studio to get a major game out.
Yeah.
Because if they're launching with a Halo title, it's just like when Nintendo launched with a Zelda title for the Nintendo Switch. It's like, boom, instant day one purchase. Like anybody that loves Zelda picked up a Switch, like because there's a launch title.
Yeah.
That was a Zelda title.
Completely agree with you, and I know they're going to use it to their advantage. They're probably going to bundle it up with some sort of special edition.
I'd love to see that. I don't know if that's what. It's hard to say because when they launch a console, usually it's like here's the console by itself. And I don't want to
You're
say
right,
controller
yeah.
optional, but it's probably really close.
Yeah.
I almost feel like Microsoft sits there and goes, should we even bundle a controller this year? You bundle a controller.
buy
It's
one
supposed
anyway.
to come with it.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like so I wouldn't expect any like games to come with it.
I mean,
I'd be super. You know what I'm curious to see is Halo Infinite going to come to Xbox Game Pass right away? And is Xbox Game Pass going to be on Xbox Scarlet? And if so, is Halo Infinite coming to that iteration of Xbox Game Pass? Like,
you know what
I have so many
they'll
questions.
do? I bet you they'll not have it on Game Pass when
Not
it
for
comes
week one,
for the
yeah,
launch,
or something.
and then the week after people mass bought, the new gen Project Scarlet. Hey, guess what's coming to Game Pass?
here we go.
Yep.
Halo Infinite. Yeah, I'd be curious to see that as well. So I don't really know that I can
can't
think of
any.
too many other like launch titles that would hit, but I just wanted to mention I thought Horizon Zero Dawn 2 seems like it'd be a great launch title, and I would love to see that.
One thing did come to my mind before I let this kind of fade away. I enjoyed Perfect Dark as a launch title. Perfect Dark Zero.
So if they like came out of nowhere with a Perfect Dark like remastering or something,
That would bring nostalgia to me.
Yeah.
Because I loved my 360, and I feel like the launch titles for the 360 were fair. It was 3 launch titles, but nonetheless, that was a pinnacle. I mean, coming out with a shooter as a launch title, I feel like is a big like a pro.
Yeah.
Because if I don't recall correctly, it's not really been a trend. Not very common to where a console would launch with a shooter of any sorts. It's more of like we'll kind of give everybody a little taste. We'll get a driving game in there, we'll get a sports game in there, we'll get a kids game in there or something.
Yeah.
Something very generic to each.
Yeah, there'll probably be a couple launch titles we could care less about. I'm sure that there's going to be third-party launch titles coming out. I would assume, actually, because we're not getting Assassin's Creed this year, and we haven't heard anything else, as far as I know, about the pirate game that Ubisoft was working on. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah. I don't remember what it's called either, but I remember the content.
Something, I thought it was something Bones. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I don't really remember much about that game, but that, I think, could potentially end up being a launch title on these systems, third party as it may be. But I'd also be curious to see if they're working on Assassin's Creed, because we know there's no Assassin's Creed coming this year.
Skull and Bones.
Skull and Bones. I had the bones part. Skull and Bones. I'm wondering if that's going to be coming to the next generation consoles as a launch title. That'd be interesting to see. If it does, I wonder if they would be willing to release an Assassin's Creed game at the same time. But I kind of would expect an Assassin's Creed game to be a launch title. That's what happened last time too.
Yeah.
Is there was Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was called Assassin's Creed 4, but Black Flag anyway did come out then. So yeah, I'd be interested to see it and to see what else is going to come. I think that that's as much as I can cover there. Dreams may come true. I doubt it. I would love to see God of War, the next God of War, come out as a launch title or within the launch window. That would be amazing to me. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else too much. Fortnite would be awesome.
Fortnite 2.
Fortnite 2, yes.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Fortnite season, 45.
Fortnite season, yeah. Fortnite, too many seasons in.
Still in beta.
You know that's going to be available day one. They're going to be like, and Fortnite, unfortunately. Anyways, so I guess we could just move on there. I'm also kind of curious. They haven't mentioned it, but I want to know in the next generation consoles how much RAM they have. And I think it's going to be 16 gigs, but they haven't talked about it, but I'd be interested to see. Because the Xbox One X has 12. Mm-hmm. The PS4 Pro has 10, as far as I know. And the baseline PS4 and Xbox One each have 8.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that'll be 16, but there's still no official word on that.
Yeah, it is GDDR6 as well. So.
And now, lastly, to segue us in, we just talked about Microsoft and Sony and what they have going on. Mm-hmm. Nintendo's been really quiet, kind of rightfully so. They're only 2.5 years in on the Nintendo Switch, but do you think, and I don't want to mention any report in particular because there's so many and they just, all of them seem uncredible, but do you think a Switch Pro may await us in the future?
Honestly, no.
You
I'm
really
gonna say no.
No?
Because I don't know. I just feel like they're in a weird spot. They're not in the same time frames, I guess, in console releases as their previous, their competitors and stuff. I feel like their lifespan for their consoles is a little more so than
their lifespan is definitely different. Nintendo is, while they're a player in the game, they're a totally different kind of, they're catering to a different market entirely. It's not that they're catering to kids, they're catering to people who are on the go and are then able to dock the console and play it as a home console as well. So if it was your only console, a Nintendo Switch would make sense to be your only console because you can take it with you anywhere and you can still play it at home, docked on your, on your TV, 1080p generally.
Yeah. Only reason I say that I don't see a Pro version coming is because I know they have they have these newer...
Historically, they don't really do that with their home consoles.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That said, they usually do have lots of iterations of their handhelds. For example, we have the Nintendo DS, to the DS Lite, to the DSi, and then for the Nintendo 3DS, we actually had the Nintendo 3DS, the Nintendo 3DS XL, and then we had the new... I'm doing quotations with my fingers here, by the way. The new, which was the Amiibo-capable 3DS. And that one was... They also had the 2DS, which was also the new. It had a little nubbin so that you could... you had 2 control sticks because the nubbin was a control stick. And which I thought was going to fall apart. It did not. It was more powerful than the previous or the other 3DS that had come out in its same generation.
Yeah.
So I do think, I will contradict you here, I do think that there will be a Switch Pro in the future, but Nintendo hasn't talked about it. I don't think any of the leaks are really valid. I think it'd be really interesting if they launch a Switch Pro or an upgraded version of the Switch next year. I don't really... I know what they can do, but I don't know what they would do.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I would say you're almost right there, because I could almost see Nintendo just being we made a more streamlined version of it, and we've just gotten rid of the other one. It's only slightly more powerful, irrelevantly so, It's the same exact price. It offers an extra hour of battery life, and it's slight 10% thinner or something, like almost no changes. I could almost see Nintendo doing, and then just charging the exact same price and completely getting rid of the other Switch. And everybody being like, "Where's the Switch Pro?" And Nintendo's like, "We're not making no Switch Pro. We don't care."
Yeah.
I could see them doing that.
Because I mean, I'd like to see it. I personally don't think we will see it, but I mean, I could stand corrected.
I would like to see. So there's nothing on this. Just to clarify, there's no official like news or anything real, and all the reports, again, read them if you want. I feel like they all sound fake and like unverified. It's gonna sound just like me right now because this is what I would love to see from a Switch Pro, which I don't believe exists, and I don't know if it will. But I would love to see from a Switch Pro a 1080p screen, an inch bigger than what we have on the current Nintendo Switch. 4K support in some capacity, probably just upscaling. I don't even know if that would be possible. Honestly, more like 1080p, 60 frames a second would be fine with me.
Yeah.
A much bigger hard drive, like 128 gigabytes instead of the stupid 32 gigabytes that they send it to you with. I just saw the eye roll right there. 32 gigs is insanely low. I have no idea why they couldn't even just pull off 64. And I would love to see this come out next year. I think there's an argument that could be made that Nintendo possibly this holiday season could announce a Switch Pro that comes out at the year anniversary of the Nintendo Switch and comes out more like March 2020. And then they get a leg up on Microsoft and Sony again. Coming up at a different time schedule, and they're coming earlier, and it's just, hey, we already make a Switch, but this is an upgraded version of it if you want. And people can still choose to buy the regular Switch. There's also been rumors of a Switch Mini, which the assumption is it would be cheaper, it wouldn't be able to be docked, you can't take off Joy-Cons. Again, all of this stuff sounds fake to me.
Yeah.
I could see that being a reality, but like, that just sounds like somebody's imagination. Like somebody's just like, I want a Switch that doesn't, and I just don't know that would be possible. I'm sure that Nintendo could make it. And
if you want Joy-Cons that don't remove super glue, do just
boom. Super glue. That is an official tech tip from this podcast.
Yes.
Please do not put super glue on your Nintendo Switch.
We're not responsible for any damaged Nintendo consoles.
Yes, exactly. If you choose to use epoxy on your Nintendo Switch, please understand the repercussions are solely your own. But anyways, yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see a Switch Pro, although there's nothing official on that like there is on like the PS5 and the Xbox Scarlet. So if anything does come up, we'll talk about it, although I just don't think so. I would love to see it though, because the Switch seems underpowered to me.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot. I wouldn't say there's a lot wrong with the Switch. It just seems kind of underpowered, and I really want to see them come out with something more powerful that doesn't quite lag as hard and stuff like that. And let me put it this way: I want to be playing Breath of the Wild 2 on a different Nintendo Switch than I played Breath of the Wild 1, and I'm fine with that. And as many people as are sitting there going, no, I already paid my money, I'm sure it'll still work with your Nintendo Switch, but I would love to see a newer Nintendo Switch come out, Pro or whatever, that has the capability to play these games better, that doesn't have these drops in frame rates and stuff. Maybe has a higher graphical fidelity.
I'm going to speculate this. I think the Switch is the first generation of similar consoles, or first generation of consoles we're going to see from Nintendo that are just going to branch off from that same style and concept of, docking
like
and
handheld
undocking.
and dock at home. Yeah.
I think that this is the first gen things we'll see, and the next generation we're going to see is going to be a branch off this tree, and a branch, it's just going to continue to evolve from this concept.
I agree too. I feel like they lost their niche, kind of. Nintendo, as many people as love them, Nintendo really isn't as successful as a company when you look at it. And I really, we need to do a separate podcast for to talk about all three of the different console makers, which maybe would be a fun one for next week, but we'll see. Nintendo's not as successful as people think it is. Nintendo, they were booming with the NES, with the Nintendo Entertainment System. The SNES sold less. The Nintendo 64, which is highlighted as like one of their best, sold even less than the Super Nintendo, and it sold about half as many units as the PlayStation 1. So as many people are like, Nintendo 64, there were a lot sold, but still it wasn't as like high up there as the PlayStation 1. And then the GameCube really took a huge dive. Like they barely sold any units on the GameCube. It was almost half as many, I think, as was the Nintendo 64. As great of a little console as that was, and I enjoyed the GameCube too. But the PlayStation 2 just effing dominated the market. And then the Wii is where they got kind of their resurgence, but that was where they found a niche with the like motion control, but it was a gimmick, and people bought into the gimmick, and Nintendo just happened to be lucky. And then the Wii U, I feel like the Wii U almost shut them down from being a console manufacturer. That was awful. And I bought one, and the Wii U was just, it wasn't...
You didn't tell me this.
I own a Wii U, unfortunately. And my like, anyways, I don't want to get into it, but I don't really like the Nintendo Wii U. I didn't like it. I bought one. I thought it was okay, but the Switch is obviously what they were trying to do. And I think you're right. I think you could almost consider, almost to the pre-generation, the Wii U, they were kind of gearing towards that.
Yeah. And
then the Switch was the realization of finding, again, a market that, like, these other console makers aren't going for. Shockingly, the PS Vita did not capture this market, but the Nintendo Switch did. And like the PS Vita didn't have a docking system and stuff, but it was that really strong portable console that had a lot of capability to it, and yet just didn't take off the way that Sony wanted it to. But that's another podcast. You know, maybe next week would be a fun one to do failed game consoles, or just talk about the ups and downs of Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo.
I'm gonna have a ball with PS Vita.
You're gonna have a field day.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, as far as things go this week, I think that about wraps things up.
I think so as well. I mean, we talked a lot. We had a lot of good points about all these things we talked about, and I honestly am very happy. And if you're listening, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, impress us.
Yeah, that's all we have to say. 2020 E3, impress us. Show some stuff off. Anyways, I'm looking forward to the next console generation. Very excited, and we'll just see what there is to come.
Yeah, hands down.
Hands down. And we look forward to speaking again with you all next week.
We're going to miss you.